We are back with an update on the AFC North after Week 10 of the NFL season. The top half of the division both had bye weeks, so the Ravens, who are still 6-3, they're preparing for their next game that is at home against the Panthers. That's a game that you would think that the Ravens should be able to win relatively painlessly. You know, the Panthers have shown that they have some scrap to their game at some points, but if the Ravens are as good as their record indicates, and if they're going to try to really make a run for the contendership, then they should be able to come away with this game against the Panthers with a win pretty easily. The Bengals still 5-4. They're getting ready for their next game, which is on the road against the Steelers. That's a chance for the Bengals to get some revenge for that surprising loss in Week 1. Although the Steelers did get TJ Watt back, and they do have some momentum, so that could be and plus the Bengals haven't done well in divisional matchups, so that is something to watch. That'll be an interesting game to think about, and I didn't think I would be saying that this far into the season when the season started, but the Bengals and the Steelers, especially considering how that matchup on Week 1 went, I think that's something to keep an eye on there and how that could impact the division moving forward. So the third place Cleveland Browns, who technically still hold third place by their divisional record and also their head-to-head victory over the Steelers, dropped to 3-6, losing 17-39 against the Dolphins on the road. This was a game that really made their performance against the Bengals kind of look like a fluke. The team had 2 weeks to get ready for the Dolphins and their talent on offense and their talent on defense, including freshly traded for Bradley Chubb, and they just looked lost really throughout the entire game, especially on defense. They only got one stop on the Dolphins, and that was on a turnover on downs. And besides that, every Miami drive was a scoring drive or the final one to end the game that they probably could have scored on too if they would have really tried to run a 2-minute drill there. But yeah, I don't see how Joe Woods makes it to next season. I know I can understand if they maybe want to play out the season with the same coordinator, don't want to make huge sweeping changes in the middle of the season. But I don't know how we can sit in the 2023-2024 season going into it with Joe Woods as the defensive coordinator. But this is also the same team that kept Hugh Jackson around after a 1-15 and then an even worse 0-16 season. So I'm not really going to be shocked either way by how the Browns choose to handle their coaching situations. I think Deshaun Watson is set to return to practice this week, but based on how the team is looking and their upcoming schedule, it looks like there's not really much of a shot that there's any chance of a playoff run by the time he gets back. It's going to be pretty much just, does he look okay in this offense? Cleveland does have some tough choices to make, I think, once the time the season ends. And they don't even have a first-round pick to look forward to. That goes to the Houston Texans for the next 3 years, by the way. And their next game is on the road against the Buffalo Bills, who are probably fresh off and hopping mad at their game against the Vikings this week. So that's not good for the Browns. It's going to be probably another long season, as it has been and probably will continue to be for the Cleveland Browns this year. And now we move on to the still technically in the basement Pittsburgh Steelers. They improved to 3-6. They win at home against the Saints by the score of 20-10. TJ Watt being back, making an immediate impact as expected. TJ Watt is a kind of player that the entire team in all aspects seems to get better as just by him being on the roster, even if it is just on the defensive side of the ball. The roster just seems to click. Everything just seems to make more sense with TJ Watt being in a Steelers uniform on the field for them. They certainly have an extra gear when he's on there. They're undefeated with him this season. 2-0 isn't a ton of sample size, but still, that's an encouraging stat for Steeler fans. They jumped out to a 10-0 lead in the game, but it was eventually tied at 10 right before halftime. I do think the Kenny Pickett to George Pickens connection is coming along pretty nicely. George Pickens does seem to be game planned to get more touches, and I think that is a good thing for the Steelers. You saw him get a couple touches on end arounds and stuff like that where they're using him even if they're not throwing it to him, and they're making sure that he is involved in the offense, touching the ball often, and that's what you want to do with your premier rookie who has shown not just flashes, but consistently being one of the best parts of your offense. As a rookie wide receiver, that's something you want to do. You want to get him involved in as many ways as possible, even if it's not just purely throwing him the ball. That game was scoreless in the third quarter, and it was tied heading into the fourth, so the Steelers having to win a fourth quarter. Andy Dalton got intercepted twice, I believe. Najee Harris had a fumble that could have been very impactful. They were up 13-10, but Pittsburgh did jump on it and recovered it. Kenny Pickett with a quarterback sneak on that drive for the touchdown that put them up 20-10, and the Steeler defense made sure it stayed that way for the rest of the game. For the Steelers and also the Browns too, but I'm covering the Steelers on this little segment here. The playoffs are still a possibility, but I think it is, at this point, more unlikely than it is likely. And like I discussed earlier, the next game is at home against the Bengals. They're trying to spoil that revenge effort, and the Steelers do have home field advantage in that one, so you'll know that the Pittsburgh faithful will be ready. They'll have their terrible towels out, and they'll be ready to make the Bengals' lives a little more miserable when they come into town on next Sunday. So that's pretty much it for the divisional update this week. Next week will be a bit more of a more fleshed out video, as all 4 teams will be playing once again for the first time since week 8. So thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it. Let me know what you think about the AFC North down in the comments below, and I will see you at the next one.